members of the media, to our viewing and listening public, those of you joining us live on our Police Service Facebook page, TV6, and CNC3. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Steve McKenzie, Acting Inspector of Police, and I'll be your host this afternoon for today's Police Service Media Briefing. With us this afternoon in our briefing, today, Tuesday, the 7th of July, 2020, is our Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith, our Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations, Mr. Jason Ford, our Head Legal Unit, Mr. Christian Chandler, and the President of the Police Service Social and Welfare Association, Mr. Gideon Dixon, also an Acting Inspector of Police. Allow me at this time to hand over to our Commissioner of Police, who would address you. Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Members of the media, good afternoon. We're here on just one topic this afternoon, and the topic deals with the situation pertaining to the fatal police shooting of 3 individuals on June 27, 2020 in Mova. To all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, again, I will continue to stress that I will give you the assurance that whilst I sit in the chair as Commissioner of Police, I will do all in my power to ensure your most fundamental right is adhered to, that being safety and security. I am a servant to 2 organizations. I am a servant to the citizens of this great country, but I'm also a servant to the police officers of a very great police service. And it is with that I have to be very balanced to ensure that I do not shift too much one way or the other. My job would always be one, to ensure that I will make a decision not based on popularity, but based on what is right for the country, what is right for the citizens, and what is right for the police service. What we have seen in the last few weeks on this matter, we have seen politicians, some with no support whatsoever, activists, law association, some members of the media, social media, anti-police volunteers, now even the PCA. Everyone is telling the police service what they should or should not do. Everyone seems to be a police officer. Everyone knows what the police should do. Everyone knows what the commissioner should and should not do. This situation, I see it is getting more and more like a lynch mob wanting immediate action with no due process. Based on the logic of action to be taken without any immediate evidence or investigations being completed, such as a directive to or request or demand by persons to suspend police officers, maybe based on this, we should change the way we go, and that without due process and without evidence and based on without completed findings, police officers should be suspended. But then if that is the case, maybe we should also look at the situation when persons are actually charged. Maybe they shouldn't get bail. But it's a situation of do so like so. Or maybe when attorneys are charged, maybe they should no longer practice and they should no longer be in the bar. And it shows the hypocrisy that in a situation where attorneys, when they are charged, they could still work and still be in the bar and practice their whatever it is they do. Or persons, when they are charged, they are given bail. Here in the police service, before we even complete an investigation, the lynch mob comes out with the forks, with the fire, with the rope, and telling me, move from this side, we need to hang these people because we need revenge. The Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the Chair of the National Security Council was clear when he stated that there must be justice and not revenge. We cannot and should not be making decisions based on emotion. There was a video, and the video actually showed a situation with an individual putting his hand in the air. And as I said, I will continue to stress, I am the person who will continue to state that I will do all that's required to remove rogue elements from the police service. I am the one that will state that if any police officer is charged, he should immediately be fired. But in the same manner, I will not sit idly by and expect for me to be bullied, pressured in any form or fashion because of there being a need that people want justice. They want revenge. There is a process, and the process would take place. I gave the assurance to the public that as the Commissioner of Police, I wait on decisions and recommendations from the Police Complaint Authority and even the DPP. So we have independent external bodies to ensure that it's not a situation of the guards guarding the guards. But when you have a situation of this, and automatically persons have used this, as I stated previously, as an opportunity to cause mayhem, destruction, and to make decisions to try to put pressure on the police service to help them in their own criminal activity, I must get involved. In this scenario that we have seen, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service officers have to go through a situation where within 1 second you need to make a decision to decide if you live or die. And it is easy for anyone to sit in their armchair and wait days later, or even in court for hours and weeks and months to analyze what the officer should or should not do. When you put yourself in the shoes of a police officer, you walk it and you understand what the officer has to go through. We have something called a simulation theater, where there are different scenarios and the officer needs to make a decision immediately. I'll just show you a short clip of it is not a simulation theater, but it is an incident that is almost, an incident that I would like the public to look at. And this, when I speak about this, this is not in any way aligned to this investigation, because I do not know if the police officers were correct in what they did or they are culpable. I do not know if the individuals, the 3 individuals, if it is that they never had a firearm or if they did. If all three persons had their hands in the air and they were killed in cold blood, that is one for sure. We do not know because the video does not show that. My point being is that instead of us trying to be judge and jury, did everyone see all 3 persons have their hands in the air at the same time? Can all citizens in this country know that the 3rd individual who was in the back seat, if he drew his firearm or not? Did we all see all 3 individuals put their hands in the air and killed in cold blood whilst their hands were in the air? It is unbelievable that all of these wannabe police officers that we have in our society that decide to see an individual, once you put your hands in the air, it means that nothing will take, it means that the police officer cannot commit an action after. Individuals on many situations, what you see there is fact, where persons have put their hands in the air, and even our police service, they will put their hands in the air and then they will retaliate when the time permits them, whether it is to draw a firearm or to attack a police officer. So a video footage of someone putting their hands in the air, and then after, you do not know what happened after that. You do not know what individuals would have done or not done. And these police officers could very well be culpable for what they have done. Maybe that the police officers killed these individuals whilst they did not have anything. But you do not know that the 3rd individual, if he drew a firearm, and if he pointed a firearm at the police officers. And that is my point. This mob rule of persons feeling that they could pressure Gary Griffith, you're in for a shock. I am not going to sit idly by and be pressured in any way. I would now ask the head of legal, Mr. Christian Chandler, just to give a few comments pertaining to what we have seen in this matter with the PCA, with the comments, the role and function of the PCA, and the recommendation and advice from a very senior counsel. Mr. Chandler.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just quickly, the Police Complaints Authority, they have a legal remit. Their legal remit pertaining to police officers come under Section 21 of the Police Complaints Authority Act. And it gives them certain powers to make investigations against corruption, serious misconduct by police officers generally. Section 26 allows them to conduct their own independent investigations. But fast track to Section 44, where thereafter they've done an investigation, they are then able to come to a conclusion. What we've seen is a media release by the PCA, which pretty much, in my interpretation, in my opinion, compromises even their own investigation, because it seems as though they have come to some conclusion without an investigation being completed. So that it would be remiss of me not to state that the recommendation of suspension is not catered for. Let's get that out there. Number one, the PCA cannot and does not have the authority to recommend any suspension of a police officer. They can recommend disciplinary proceedings, they can recommend the matter be sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions, but they cannot recommend suspension. Suspension is dictated under Section 152 of the Police Service Regulations that gives the Commissioner the power to suspend an officer where he sees fit. The fact of the matter is that in this circumstance, the Commissioner has not seen that as necessary as yet. Therefore, he has not acted so too. In pursuit of that, earlier today, we would have gotten a press release from Senior Counsel Israel Khan. So I just want to quickly read out what Mr. Khan would have forwarded to the Commissioner of Police. He writes, I call upon the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith, not to suspend the officers involved in the recent killings of 3 of our citizens unless the Director of Public Prosecution institutes criminal charges of murder or manslaughter against them. And if the DPP is of the view, having regard to the national attention and protestations vis-à-vis the death of the 3 deceased persons, that an inquest should be conducted expeditiously, the officers must not be suspended unless the coroner makes a finding of fact that criminal offenses have been committed. He says, Mr. Griffith, Honorable Commissioner of Police, I say to you that you cannot signal to the population at large and to your own officers that you have concluded that the officers committed criminal offenses based upon PCA investigation and thus brought the police service into disrepute. The serving officers who are assigned to protect and serve the entire country will be reluctant, and rightly so, to put their lives and liberty in the line of fire if without the DPP or coroner indicating that there is credible, uncontradicted evidence to charge their fellow officers with the crime of murder or manslaughter. Note well, both Mr. Ulrich Skerrett and I, Israel B. Raja Khan, Senior Counsel, are of counsel for the 7 officers who are under investigation in this matter. So there you have also a Senior Counsel giving his own advice and interpretation of the situation. And this is a Senior Counsel who has a wealth of experience at the criminal bar making these pronouncements. So it is upon that notion, as the Commissioner just stated, that we cannot be too quick to rush in and make a judgment before we have all of the facts. The fact of the matter is that whilst we have always advocated that discipline is at the top of our agenda, we must do so and operate within the confines of evidence, intelligence, and a common sense and practical approach to how we met out justice. For example, if it is that a mob of persons came to a police station and made a report, is it automatically that those officers are to be suspended? No. The fact of the matter is there must be some investigation conducted, and thereafter, based upon the findings of fact, then the Commissioner of Police would act. But to ask and call upon the Commissioner of Police to act without any evidence, without any proper information, we do not know what the PCA has in their possession. Perhaps they may have some information, but surely it has not been passed to the Commissioner of Police or myself, who constantly are in dialogue with the authority. So that being the case, it is rather an unfortunate situation that a media release asking the Commissioner to do something that is not even permissible by the PCA has reached the attention of the media before the Commissioner of Police has had sight of any documentation, any information, and it has led to this unfortunate position. Commissioner.
Thank you very much. And this goes back to persons who may have an agenda or they are emotional and they need action. We have activists / politicians / activists. They continue to text the PCA, the PSC, the DPP's office, and the Commissioner's office several times a day, calling, harassing, frustrating, to try to get their way. One thing, especially politicians, you will spend more time in a general election campaign so that you will have more than 5 children on their tent for a political launch who just came to shelter from the rain. rather than try to intimidate and put pressure on persons to act to how you want it to be done. Anytime as for me as the Commissioner of Police, no one could pressure me. What I will just do is block you, or ignore you, or I will listen to you and realize you have an agenda. But it is really unfortunate if anyone or any organizations of those that I just called would succumb to pressure by the public or by any individual. That is a sign of weak leadership and a weak organization. If persons could succumb to pressure because of what is taking place out there. And again, with all of this I say, I will ask the public to recall, understand, remember that I am the one who stated that any police officer who is charged for any violent crime, murder, rape, kidnapping, any violent crime, they should be fired immediately from this police service. And when I said that, many persons in this country, they were offended by it because they said innocent until proven guilty. And I beg to differ, because along the same line as what happened in Minneapolis, those officers should have been fired immediately, and it was done. If there's anything that is clear to show that there's something that has seriously taken place involving action by police officers outside of their role and function, and they have abused their authority to the point of committing a criminal act, and there's enough glaring evidence, well, then they should be fired immediately and definitely suspended. In this situation, it's very blurred. You can't just become judge and jury based on, just as similar with that scenario I just showed you. If anyone could have video footage or to state that 3 persons had their hands in the air, and whilst their hands were in the air, persons were killed in cold blood, that is something totally different to a situation where if anybody in the public could come to me now and tell me they know that, I will take that decisive action. But do not tell me that you've seen a video with someone's hand in the air, the hand then goes down, and I'm not on this individual I'm speaking about, but even the individual who was in the back seat. And this again, we have 3 persons who have lost their lives. This is not to question the actions of any of these individuals. The point is, there must be an investigation. It must be independent. And decisions must not be based because of a mob outside there who are demanding blood. And for this matter, the PCA have not submitted any evidence or report to me to state the reason for their recommendations, which additionally is curious. And I am not bowing to public pressure. To all citizens of this country, I want you all to understand we have a very tired police service out here. And yet, with that, some persons want revenge based on the hate campaign of hate the police service. Some persons, that's all they do, right? Because you see, when you go after the police, that is newsworthy. But the persons who are the true criminal elements, who try to destroy us, destroy our democracy, you don't see anything adverse about them. Blame the police, hate the police, attack Gary Griffith, speak about what Gary Griffith should do, speak about what the police should do, but don't speak about what the criminals should do. It is my job to keep morale lifted, and I will stand firm to defend a proud institution that has matured remarkably in the last 2 years. I could easily make life very easy for me, as the PCA seems to have done, by just throwing officers under the bus with a media release and exonerate myself from public pressure, and I could do the same and easily say that I suspend them, and nobody could blame me. But an action like that is the same reason why 2,000 years later, no one named their son Pontius. I am not going to sit down and just throw someone under the bus and have him people virtually taken to the gallows and then say, well, it wasn't me. I am not a weak leader, and I'm indeed made of sterner stuff. I am here to defend those under my command if being targeted, and if and when evidence is brought to my attention, I will act decisively. But I would not act to quench the thirst of those looking for blue blood. Based on the PC report, it is totally devoid of any findings so far to show that there's enough substantial evidence that the police officers were involved in wrongdoing. Nothing that they have shown so far. With this, I will now ask the most senior career police officer in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations, DCP Ford, to please address us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. It is common knowledge that the Commissioner of Police, by virtue of the Constitution, has oversight of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It is also common knowledge that there are other constitutionally due bodies that will assist with those investigations. And when things happen that warrants an investigation, the Commissioner, in partnership with other departments, will act. Something happened on June the 27th. None of us in this room here can conclusively say what happened. Because of that, then you need to have an investigation conducted. As a Deputy Commissioner with responsibility for operations, I want to guarantee that that investigation will be transparent and it will be fair. Already a team has been appointed, led by an assistant superintendent with a background in the criminal investigations department, narcotics and fraud investigations, to lead that investigative process. The Professional Standards Bureau will have oversight of that investigation along with the Police Complaints Authority. We are guided by laws which will guide that investigation. In the past, the Police Service has cooperated with the PCA, and we will be cooperating going forward. Historically, the Professional Standards Bureau has investigated its own, and its own being members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And wherever evidence was unearthed of wrongdoing, persons were charged and placed before the courts, and history will bear us out. In dealing with this issue, the Commissioner, who has that authority to act within the law, has taken a decision to place some officers on what we call administrative duty, and some officers have been sent on leave. What that does is that strategically, officers have been placed in such a way that they have no close proximity to this investigation. It greatly diminishes the ability of these officers to influence the outcome of these investigations. And I dare say that that heightens and emboldens the integrity of the investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is deeply committed to ensuring the rights of all concerns, including the officers, are upheld. That would be employment rights and constitutional rights. Now, while the call for suspension is loud, I want to share with you that it must be balanced against the process. Due process must be followed, and I am sure, by interaction with the Commissioner, that should evidence unearth itself that warrants stronger action than administrative leave, than administrative duties, those actions will be taken. At the end of the day, lives have been lost. We want an inquiry that will tell us what happened. That follows a process of investigations, submissions, and then directions by the Director of Public Prosecutions on the way forward. I am confident that with the team that has been appointed and with oversight by the Professional Standards Bureau and the PCA, this inquiry will come to a speedy conclusion, and we will have justice at the end of it all. So.
Thank you. Now, based on that, before I hand over to Mr. Dixon, one? Who wouldn't belong? I wish to state that based on the information that we have received from the PCA and based on the present situation, I make informed decisions. I do not make decisions based on what is popular or what is going to get me off the hook or make life easy for me or to be pressured by mob rule. With immediate effect, all those involved in firing their weapon during this incident would no longer be on active duty, either operational or administrative. And I expect that the Police Complaint Authority's findings, which is what they are supposed to have done in the first place, to forward to me, would be sent to me as quickly as possible for me to take decisive action and disciplinary action if required, or to ensure that the officers report to full duty based on the findings. This is not in any way to be seen as a sign that the officers are being accused or blamed or disciplined for wrongdoing. Two totally different things. Before I hand over to Mr. Dixon, again, I want to go back to the point. We should find a way, instead of us finding a way to recognize the efforts of the police service, I have recommended the police service, these officers and men, your officers, men and women of the police service, should be given a medal for their performance and service to this country this year. They have gone non-stop, from trying to secure the country all through Christmas, going straight into the carnival season, ensuring it was the safest carnival ever, straight into COVID, where no other organization had to work as much as the police service. Every police officer was on board, doing what was required to secure this nation during the COVID pandemic. To securing the country based on persons who tried to destabilize the country, to officers being killed, to now being prepared to secure the country during the general election campaign. We have seen very, very little, if any, degree of thanks. And even today, if you look to your right, that photograph, a police officer was killed. His funeral was today. I will ask the media how many of you all actually attended that funeral. Very few. Well, I know, I saw you there. But the point is, the hurt, the pain, the hate, the bitterness that we should have when police officers are killed, you don't see it. I don't know, probably I guess that police lives don't matter to some, but it matters to me, and it matters to the vast majority of this great country. We are engulfed in a society of those who spit negativity by those who shout the loudest, whilst the silent majority looks on. It is very difficult and very challenging to maintain a high degree of morale and motivation for our police officers when we have others who want to continue to blame all ills of our society on the police service. The police service, I remind the country, they would be the main arm to secure you, your family, your assets, and the freedom of your country. Remember this. They are the main link to stop chaos and anarchy from prevailing. Some want that. I ask the public, please do not be baited. Over the last few months, because of the unfortunate situation, unacceptable situation in Minneapolis and other places, police services around the world have been affected. But what we have seen in many countries, we have seen demotivated police services. And many of them have said, okay, so people want us to peg back, well, we'll do so. They want us to stop fighting hard to protect them, then so be it. Let us do that, and let us only act when necessary. And forget about putting our lives in the firing line, because every time the smoke dies, we are the ones blamed. I ask the country, do not be an ungrateful society that would not appreciate what these men and women do for you on a daily basis. With that, I now ask the head of the Police Social and Welfare Association, Mr. Dixon, to please address us and give the views of the association based on this situation.
Thank you very much, Commissioner of Police, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chandler, the media, entire Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, the world. The association starts simply by saying, as it relates to the death of one of our own, we would be offering a $10,000 reward for any person who would be able to provide information which transcends into evidence that could bring the perpetrators to justice. We also want to put on record that our prayers are with the family of the Mosleys and even the community at Mover, where I once reside. Having said so, the events from the 27th of June to present has in fact placed the police service under the magnifying glass. And to the extent that several pronouncements have been made on how we do business, we, the association, would want to say that we fully support the actions taken by the Commissioner of Police in relation to this matter. We also want to say that the efforts by independent institutions to pronounce upon how the service should be managed is totally out of character. We understand that they have their roles to play, notwithstanding that we are also saying that the managing of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is catered for under Section 123 of the Constitution, and it is in the hands of the Commissioner of Police, who has been doing a sterling job where that is concerned. Having said that, the latest on the issue as it relates to the Police Complaints Authority pronouncing in this preliminary stage of the investigation, we find it to be very spurious, very prejudicial, and it is out of what they are expected to do, particularly when we look at Section 44 of the PCA's Act. It is upon completion such recommendations could be made. So if you are at the preliminary stage of an investigation and you are already making recommendations, something is not correct there. However, the record will also show that this has been the consistent trend of the PCA over the last 4 to 5 years. The public record would validate that. The issue of due process, as mentioned by my colleagues at the head table here, continues to be one that the association stands on, and we are saying in this instance here, due process also must be applied. How could we say with certainty, unless an investigation takes place, that the person with firearm number 1 and the person with firearm number 18 or the person with firearm number 10 would have in fact fired their firearm and it caused the demise of anyone? Or are we saying that everyone is suspended and the truth be told, upon the suspension, you more or less label everyone, and the findings at the end of the day suggest that only 2 of the firearms was in fact used? We are not to say at this point in time. So prejudicing the outcome of an investigation, we find it to be very, very unprofessional. We frowned on it. We are saying that it is not the best dynamics as it relates to being an objective or fair, transparent body in terms of you making your pronouncement even before it starts. We are yet to hear anything as it relates to the forensic results of the weapons used. All these things must play an integral part. And as said, the Commissioner has outlined how he proposed to treat with the matter. The association is in full support of that. We would also want to add that we know and we expect that the officers who would have been involved in the incident to in fact be exposed to some psychosocial services, which I am certain that the social service unit has already embarked upon. Additionally, to the families of the persons who have died on the 27th of June, we also have a victim support unit who, in fact, I am sure, has been on the ground since that date and providing whatever services could be rendered at this point in time. Forgive me if I cannot go further. I cannot comment. I need to be elsewhere at this point in time. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, everyone. May I be excused?
Yeah, please. And before I now open questions to the media, again, I want to remind the public, other police services worldwide having similar situations have not been made of the stern stuff of these men and women of this great Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Organizations have been dropping tools and stepping back. Had it not been for the continued pushback by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, criminal enterprises in this country would reign supreme. I refuse to be pressured and throw any white flag in for criminal elements, both those in sagging pants and those in suits. Not the high quality as mine, but suits. To my officers and to the family, I tell you this: do not retreat. Do not be pegged back. Keep the fight. Disregard the critics and the mocking pretenders who all feel that they know everything about law enforcement whilst they sit in their armchair and type. I would defend you when you do right, and I would protect you from certain vultures out there who cloak themselves as defenders of the all too wicked police posse, when some are really defenders of criminal elements at times, or try to, as politicians, try to see if they can label, demonize the police service to hope that they can get some degree of support from certain communities. I ask all officers out there, go out and do your job. Do it with pride, and go and do above and beyond the call of duty. Make the criminal lives difficult. Destroy their empire. But we will do so within the law. And any police officer that will go outside of the law, I will discipline you accordingly for any wrongdoing. And just before I close, there's a certain video that we have seen, and it goes right back to the situation with criminal elements. We have seen a truce that would have taken place recently, and they all hugging up, high-fiving, having a good time, because the gangs have said that they have now formed a truce, 2 of the major gangs. As the Commissioner of Police, I wish to say I welcome this. This is excellent news. If it means that persons who have been involved in criminal activity, that have been instrumental and been the catalyst for the majority of the 5,000 murders in the last decade, and they decide to say, let us form a truce because we want peace. And with this now, as the Commissioner of Police, I intend to help you with that truce. Stating that you are telling the whole country that there's a truce and you need peace, I am providing the opportunity for you to hand in all your firearms. Because as gang members, and you want to have a truce, I will expect that what you will do now is to give up all of your firearms and then work to help in this country. So a truce cannot be cosmetic, that you high-five one gang member and gang leaders with others, and then say, but we'll keep our firearms. You cannot have a cosmetic truce. There's a saying that you cannot be half pregnant. So if you're speaking about a truce, and you say you want to bring peace, well, the best way to bring peace is to remove the items of war that you have used to kill many innocent persons in this country over the last decade. As the Commissioner of Police, I give now that opportunity for you to hand in all of your firearms with immediate effect and show to the country that what you have is really truce towards ensuring that there will be no more criminal activity and not a convenient degree of persons trying to form an alliance because they realize that they've been weighed, measured, and found wanting because this police service and this police commissioner would not weigh down to the pressures by anyone to expect me to go back to what it is I am doing. I will continue to make life very difficult for criminal elements, regardless of how they are dressed or where they are. But I give the assurance to this great country that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we will do all that is required to provide you with your fundamental right of safety and security, but we will do it within the law. Open to questions.
Commissioner, good afternoon. Darren Baho, Newsday.
Hey.
In the last 2 years, or just about 2 years that you've been in office, you have made considerable gains in restoring some confidence in the police service. In light of the incident which took place in Mova, do you think that the confidence in the police service has waned at all? And if so, how do you intend to rebuild that trust? I have a couple more questions if you want me to go.
Let me hit one after the other. Very good question, Darren. Yes, it is true that there's been an increase in public confidence and trust in the police service. It has moved from 14 to 30-odd%. The public trust and confidence in the Commissioner of Police, I wish that that percentage can actually be filtered down to the police service. I will switch it immediately if I can, because one man would be involved in trying to ensure a good organization. I could leave tomorrow. I could be killed tomorrow. I could leave in a few years. The fact of the matter is this is an institution that was here before most persons that they were born, and it will be here for years to come. My objective is to ensure that we have a proper foundation for this great institution. And with that, there would be shortcomings. Because the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, people are not aware, but I'm going to give you a shocker right now. Guess what? They are human beings who are police officers. And the meaning of human beings means that they are human. And when it means that persons are human, guess what? It means that the persons are not perfect and they would make mistakes. But also, it's to be noted that society likewise is not perfect. Do we demonize our whole society and our whole country? No. It means that if police officers make mistakes, we build from our mistakes, we learn from our mistakes. This situation here, however, as unfortunate as it is, because lives have been lost, persons have become judge and jury and have made a decision that police officers are wrong. And that is my only concern, that I am giving the assurance to the public, any police officer that is involved in wrongdoing. I have been involved now in, again, and to answer your question, Darren, to conclude, as it pertains to what is being done to improve public confidence and trust. Never before we had the use of body cameras. Now there have been 180 body cameras fully operational. It is costly. And what I have done now, and again, I will take this opportunity to make it official, that I have now ordered 1,000 body cameras. I have found some avenue to see how I can change my budget, because this is a matter that must be dealt with. And 1,000 body cameras to be issued. And that was the problem before, where police officers did not have an issue. These body cameras will be issued to all police officers in the task force, especially in the 5 major divisions, as soon as we acquire it. Port of Spain, Western, Northern, Northeastern, and Central. And the body cameras will be mandatory. It will be placed in regulations to ensure that any police officer that will come out on a patrol, he must immediately switch it on. The public will need to understand, however, as you've seen internationally, the body cameras will not be the be-all and end-all. In a situation of hostility, if you're in armed conflict, in a firefight, which can last about 3 seconds, when you hit the ground, you have to roll, you have to get in an area, cover from view, cover from fire, get in, especially dealing with anti-ambush drills, the whole concept of counter-revolutionary warfare. A body camera, it is very limited. It is not a situation of somebody's on the range and they're just aiming at someone and you're seeing everything. In 3 seconds, you're under fire, you have to get down and get down quickly. But the body camera, we stated a few weeks ago, it can assist with audio and audio footage. So it does not hurt, but it is not going to be the be-all and end-all. And in fact, the reason why I want to push for body cameras more than anything else is to ensure that my police officers, when wrongfully accused by the lady in the towel, the all too wicked posse, that when they make the accusations, because we do know that they have the bionic eyes, that through walls they see everything that took place involved in police shootings with individuals, that the police officers can now use this as evidence to protect themselves when wrongfully accused. Yes.
The PCA has said that, yes, it has a working arrangement with the police service, but in a recent statement they said that they want to be there moments after shooting. They're not getting that kind of cooperation from the police service. They usually have to wait until the police give them statements, give them shells, give them other key evidence which may help exonerate or help build a case against police officers. Are you going to make sure that the PCA investigators are full and frontal in incidents of police misconduct from the moment go?
Well, you started on the wrong foot by stating police misconduct. How can you state it as police misconduct before the investigation has been completed? So I think you're probably there. And that, it is not police misconduct. You mean investigation of a police shooting. Yeah. An investigation of a police shooting. I have spoken to the head of the PCA, the director, on several occasions. I don't think we ever had a situation of such a good working relationship between the TTPS and the PCA as we have seen now. And in fact, almost on every occasion when a recommendation is made by the PCA, it is actioned immediately. It is not filed. In this situation, but the reason why I act on it is because they bring findings to justify why they state that, Commissioner, we think this person should be, disciplinary action should be taken, criminal action should be taken, based on the findings, please find attached. I did not get it in this situation. So this is why it is that based on their recommendation, and the PCA, they don't recommend suspension. It is recommendation based on criminal action to be taken or disciplinary action be taken. They have never once stated that for you to state the type of action that is taken, that is where it is that there was a problem. So I try to work with the PCA as much as possible. I try to act on every single recommendation they made based on if findings come to me. And in this situation here, what happens is that the PCA, we are setting proper standard operational procedures to ensure that immediately, when it is that there's a police shooting, they must be informed immediately. I have spoken to the director of the PCA to deal with your same matter. Because let me tell you, one of the problems that can take place is similar to the internal affairs in North America. The internal affairs don't automatically go on the scene for obvious reasons. Because remember, the lady in the towel, the all too wicked police posse, if somebody turns up with a PCA jersey, you will get 10 persons automatically making a United States stance on a statement on something that may not have taken place, and that can cause serious action on a police officer based on lies. We have seen it. We have heard the all too wicked posse, and then when we check and we start to investigate, we realize the individual was not even around when it happened. So we can't just use the PCA as an avenue for persons to escalate their emotion, to try to lie on police officers. But we have found a way to ensure, because what I want, likewise, I do not want police officers to be the only investigators that can actually cause an avenue. It's about the guards guarding the guards. So I understand and I agree with the PCA. So we have found an avenue. We are not going to state what it is, but the PCA would be pretty pleased as to what will happen to ensure that there must be no perception that the police will only give limited information to the PCA. My job is to give the PCA as much information as possible, likewise to ensure that my police officers can be cleared of wrongdoing, and if it requires that they are disciplined, I need to ensure that they get the information as quickly as possible so that I can take decisive action on these officers.
Just one final question before I pass on the mic. Commissioner, in the last 6 years, there have been 214 incidents where police involved killings. There are 156 matters which are still being investigated. Many of those cases, just as you're saying, you want closure for your police officers so they can continue to work. What about the families of those victims? Why is it taking so long for those matters to be completed? The PCA is saying the delay rests with the police and Forensic Science Center in terms of getting forensic analysis reports and so forth. Just as the country exploded with a rush of anger and emotion and protest, there were several other incidents where people would have protested, calling for justice, demanding justice. Those police officers, you said, are still on the beat on all those 156 other matters. How do you intend to fast track or speed up the delivery of justice or in those matters?
Yeah, okay. Now, again, this was way before my time. What I'm trying to do now is, as quickly as possible, deal with these matters as it comes along. We meet on a regular basis with the PCA. And again, it is interesting that you make mention of the concern of police shootings. But guess what? 200-odd police shootings. In the last 5 years, there have been 500 incidents of police officers being shot at. It means once in every 4 days, someone shoots at my police officer for the last 5 years. By the law of probability, if every 4 days you are shot at, but you have a firearm, what do you think is the possibility that when you shoot back, the person will be killed? So let's just do the maths. The maths is that it means that every 4 days for the last 5 years, there have been reports of persons shooting at police officers. But instead of us looking at that, as I said, police lives do not matter. There has been no concern by anyone here in this room that my police officers have been shot at less than 4 days, once every 4 days for the last 5 years. Not a concern. Where's that hurt? Where's that interest of the media to ask me that question? Commissioner, what can be done to stop persons shooting at our police officers every 4 days for the last 5 years? And if anyone has a firearm and you believe that every 4 days you are shot at and you intend to shoot back, but then when you kill that person, then it becomes a concern. It must go both ways, ladies and gentlemen. I will ask when you all leave here today to just go downstairs and just turn to the left, and you will see a tablet. The dozens upon dozens of police officers who were killed in the last since the police service was established. Where's the concern to ask about the justice for the family members of those police officers who were killed in the line of duty? Let's look to the right. Where's the justice and demand about anyone asking about PC Mosley, whose head was blown off for no reason at all? And I'm sorry, as a leader, I have to here to defend the men and women under my command. It doesn't take away the fact that if there's wrongful activity, we would deal with it. But the fact is that through our working relationship with the PCA, we do as much as possible. The police service continue to do as much as possible. We never had before what I'm doing now: polygraph testing, drug testing, transferring police officers. The number of police officers who have been suspended, and now I'm trying to dismiss police officers for wrongdoing. Then with the situation of body cameras, the minimum use of force policy, training, cameras on the dashboards of all police vehicles for real-time video footage, and last but not least, ensuring the minimum use of force through police officers never before being issued with pepper spray, tasers, and a baton to be used not as a pain-compliant method, but that to be used to suppress an individual to avoid that individual being hurt. So to sum it up, I hope one day I could be asked the question, Commissioner, your police officers have been shot at once every 4 days for the last 5 years. Would that not mean that it's possible that when the police officers return fire, persons would be killed? Police officers would not shoot if they are not shot at on most occasions. So in the same way that persons are concerned about police killings, what I would ask is just stop shooting at police officers, and then maybe we will stop shooting back at you. And this has nothing to do with this situation, obviously. Yes.
Commissioner, good afternoon. Head table, good afternoon. Urvashi from TV6. Given that the Professional Standards Bureau is within the TTPS, there's a general lack of trust in that investigation experienced by the public. And today, we're now hearing you, as well as the association, talk about the PCA and the PCA's investigation possibly being prejudiced. How would you feel about a third independent investigation?
Well, no. Well, let me clarify. It's not the PCA being prejudiced in any way. That is not true. We are not seeing, well, I don't know what was said elsewhere, but in my case, the PCA is a very professional organization. I have the world of respect for those who work in the PCA, and there's a good working relationship. My concern is that you do not send something to the media to escalate sensationalism before it even gets to my desk. And then when you do it, out of common courtesy, explain the findings. Don't just say that, and then do not give a recommendation to the police to tell us what should. To me, it can be perceived as a get out of jail free. I pass the buck, I hand it over to you, so no one could blame me now because we have made a recommendation, so people can't attack me and say that, and that is my concern. So, but having said that, the PCA will conduct a very thorough investigation, so there's no concern about that whatsoever. Then there's the DPP as well. So there are independent, there would be independent institutions, and that's why I give the assurance to the public. Do not be concerned that this is going to affect you, there's going to be any degree of a cover-up. I'll be the last person that will allow this to happen. I have been working night and day to try to remove all rogue elements from the police service. And I have stated it then, I will state it now. But there must be some degree of evidence. In other words, had we seen video footage similar to that, what we just showed earlier, there are 3 persons, their hands in the air, police shoot at them and kill them in cold blood, or a man who keeps his knee on an individual, that is blatant, it is cut and dry. We are not seeing the video footage of the 3rd person, what he did. And that's why it does not mean that this is something that is it's an open book that we can say, look, this is what happened. And that's all I'm saying. I need to work on certain findings, and I'm waiting on the PCA to give me the findings. Yeah, the PSB will do the investigation. But mind you, the PSB have been very instrumental in trying to ensure that charges are laid on police officers left, right, and center. Just a few weeks ago, a very senior officer is now being seriously questioned pertaining to criminal activity. So we don't cover at all wrongdoing, but I must ensure there's a proper procedure, there's proper process, and I'm not going to have a lynch mob try to look for blue blood.
Commissioner, I think it's about 2 or 3 times you keep mentioning this 3rd individual. I mean, we all saw the video, the glass went down. Is there information that there was in fact a gun in that vehicle, 1? And 2, we're talking about body cams. Were there body cams worn?
Okay, my initial findings on body cameras were not worn. And again, this is where it is. I've decided to ensure that police officers must be issued body cameras, so there can't be any cop-out. No pun intended. That police officers could say, well, it wasn't issued to me. As it pertains to the firearm, obviously, I would not make any comment like that to the public. But my point being is that there could or there could not. So let the public, you cannot be a judge if it is you did not know if there was or there was not. You do not know if someone had their hands in the air and then, as I showed you recently, because we have simulation theaters with different things. And that is why it is we have to be so careful. All I'm saying is that this will be dealt with. And if any officer would have abused their authority, I'll be the first person in local parlance to do what is required. Well, bust the truth. I will do what is required. I will continue to ensure that there's a degree of transparency, and I will clean up the police service. But again, we cannot in any way decide to just make an action based on emotion. As a commissioner of police, as a leader, I do not make decisions when I'm angry. No leader should do so, or being emotional, or trying to satisfy the public. I have to do what is right.
So, Commissioner, you mentioned this video that you've seen of the truce. Given that you've seen the video, can these persons will they be investigated for gang affiliation, 1? And 2, when you speak about handing in firearms, is there going to be a gun amnesty?
Well, again, before it gets there, it will have to go to the Minister of National Security or the Chair of the National Security Council to decide such. But my point being is that I see it being very hypocritical when they try to call a truce, but your truce is really to form a strategic alliance because I continue to stop you, prevent you from causing anarchy. What these individuals attempted to do, they could not have done it. So they believe that they work on the system that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Not the fact that they want a truce to stop the bloodshed that they have caused throughout the country. As it pertains to charging individuals, we cannot charge individuals based on intelligence. We have to do it based on evidence. So there may be many persons we're aware who are persons of interest who are involved in criminal activity, and we continue to pressure as much as possible, find avenues, and if I do not get them one way, I will get them another based on them breaking the law, not because of anything else.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioner. I'm Peter Christopher from Guardian Media. I have a somewhat related question with regard to the death of Ornella Graves. Has there been any update with regard to that investigation? I know that Inspector Dixon made reference to the delays with regard to forensic ballistic testing and such. Has that impacted that investigation as well?
Yeah, sorry, and then going back to Darren's point, it goes, when the PCA mentions the fact of delays, we have situations such as in NYPD, if there's a shooting incident, you will get back based on ballistic forensic testing, you get it back in 7 days. Sometimes it will take 7 years. That is beyond the remit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. However, very soon I've sent the proposal that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we can have our own center to be able to fast track this, because it takes too long. Witnesses disappear, the victim, the persons who may be possible perpetrators, they will disappear. The question it was pertaining to no, as it pertains to the situation in Beetham, yet again, we have found video footage to show that when the unfortunate death of that lady in Beetham, we have video footage, and you're looking around, and there was absolutely no police officer or vehicle around that area for about 3 minutes until a police vehicle turned up. So what we had is that the public yet again put in 2 and 2, added together, and they get 5. Because you saw the police officers there on the scene, you automatically linked it that the police officer shot the lady. Now, I'm not saying that they did or they did not, but my point being, when the individual was on the ground, there were no police officers for miles, for several minutes before they arrived. Now, again, I'm not stating, I am not here to judge. It can very well be there may have been a police officer that was there before, and then he left. Or, what we do know for a fact is that there were a number of shootings that took place within the Beetham area of persons shooting from inside there. Is it that that individual unfortunately met her death because of the gunshot by an individual there? And this is where the ballistic testing comes in. I've been liaising with the forensic department to put this as priority. We have to look at the ballistics to verify what weapon was fired, and I have asked the DCP operation, Mr. Ford, to look at, we're looking at video footage of all police vehicles several minutes prior to her shooting and several minutes after. And we are getting all the weapons of all the police officers to be able to look at true ballistic testing to see if any of those weapons were fired. And that is how you do an investigation. Not have a lynch mob that automatically, because someone was killed and the police turned up on the scene after, we automatically put 2 and 2 together to say that the police officers were the ones that committed the act.
Okay, and my follow-up question, I noticed that there have been some reports that the officers involved in the Mova shooting have been placed in administrative duty. Would that be related to the investigation as well? What was the rationale behind that decision?
Well, again, there must be a line that I will continue to move up based on the increase in the findings that would have taken place. Based on the concern of a shooting. I remember there was an individual who tried to destroy our democracy and held persons hostage for several days. Police officers were killed. The man said, if you look, I don't know why it is the media gives him any recognition in the first place. Like, it seems that the more you try to commit crime, the more you try to destroy democracy, the more you try to cause looting, the more that the media will continue to give them prominence. This individual said, it's all over the world. As soon as a police officer shoots someone, he's suspended. I don't know what planet this man is on. The man speaks like a cartoon. And we continue to interview him. There's no police service in the world that every time a police officer fires his weapon, he is suspended. That does not happen. So in the situation here, however, because of the video footage, we saw an individual who had actually surrendered. He put his hands in the air. There's a greater degree of concern to persons if shots were fired at police officers. We actually have the shells to show that the police officers were shot at. This is something totally different. Based on that, until the investigation is completed, I saw it fit to ensure that these individuals will go on administrative duty. However, based on the findings now of the PCA, what I have done now is to ensure that all the police officers who have been involved in firing their weapon at that point, that they would not be on administrative or operational duty with immediate effect. It does not mean that they are labeled as being on suspension, that they are culpable for, and we see them as being a suspect. That would be inappropriate. When the findings from the PCA come to me, then we will know whether we take further decisive action or the officers will return to full duty.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioner. Olive Gonzalez, also from Newsday. I just have two quick questions. I would like to know what is the next step in this matter now that the officers have been removed from active duty? And I would also like to know, have there been an increase of reports of police officers receiving threats after the protest?
Yes, well, the first, yes, there have been a number of incidents of police officers being threatened, persons openly stating that they intend to kill police officers using video footage. But again, when you look at the editorials and daily newspapers, there's no concern about the lives of police officers. There's no concern of, look where we have reached of a society where persons are going on social media, boasting that they want to kill police officers, threaten police officers. I'm not worried about me. I can handle my story. If they're coming after me, they better come good, and I'll be waiting, lock and loaded. I am concerned about my other police officers who have family members. And that is a degree of concern that this society, our country, should be concerned about. These men put their lives on the line on a daily basis. That is why this is the most noble of all professions. Nothing personal, media. But the fact is that they put their lives on the line to protect a stranger, and they're willing to take a bullet for a stranger. And instead of us being concerned about the number of threats to police officers, how do you think if you're a husband or wife and you know that your loved one leaves the home every single day? Imagine you have children, 5, 6 years old, knowing that and hearing threats to kill police officers, and you're wondering if that is the last time you will see your father or mother. You're crying because you do not want them to leave because of what is happening out there. And not one police officer shut down. Not one of them dropped tools. They stood up there for a society that continues to abuse, destroy, undermine, and demonize them. That is what you call true heroes. And as it pertains to that, yes, there have been a number of threats. We are monitoring the individuals, but these same individuals are those that are protected by certain individuals. I will say, the same way it is that police, we have rogue elements, and I weed out the rogue elements. I would love one day the Law Association will look in the mirror and try to do same. They have never once been able to state openly, our attorneys, we have bad attorneys and we intend to deal with them. I do it for me. I would like others to look in the mirror. Because the same way you have criminal lawyers, you also have lawyer criminals. I'm sorry, what was the first question?
What is the next step?
All right, yeah. So again, I will wait on the PCF sent a letter with a recommendation without showing me the findings for them to justify the recommendation. And usually a recommendation is not to tell me how to discipline police officers. So they totally dropped the ball. They were like the West Indies test team. They were just dropping the ball all over. I hope they don't do that this weekend. So they need to make sure that they provide the findings, submit the findings to us, so that I can justify actions being taken to ensure that it was not based on emotion, based on you being pressured by any organization, activist, or institution, and a decision was made based on substance, not based on emotion.
Commissioner, I just wanted to seek clarity on what exactly you meant by the officers would not be on active duty, and if you could also give us an update on the persons who were taken into police custody for the COVID party in Belmont.
Okay, I'll have DCP Ford answer that. But as it is at this time, the police, I think the biggest concern is not, and even persons who may not be emotional, their concern is that police officers who may be involved in this, just say by chance, 50-50, that there are police officers who are culpable. If you're culpable, you do not want to have police officers for a serious matter like this be involved in any operational or administrative scenario that can cause the investigation to be compromised. So what I have done now is to remove them from all administrative and operational duty until further notice. It does not mean that they're disciplined, but it is to ensure that there's no perception that from the public, and to make me feel comfortable to know that there's no way that any investigation that takes place by police officers, it cannot be compromised. And that is, I think, is the main concern. If anybody is worth their salt, I think the main concern that any citizen will want, and rightly so, is that police officers must not investigate police officers, and if those officers who are being investigated have access to try to lure, intimidate, harass any other police officer, that could be a concern. So by removing police officers from administrative and operational duties involved in the shooting during that incident, it will take away that perception. So there's absolutely no cause now for anyone to ask for anything more to take place until we get findings. And if the findings will show that there's been a degree to give substance, that there's serious discipline that may have disciplinary action that is required, I will immediately act on it. Mr. Ford, you could clarify about the 61.
Yes, the persons who were arrested, they were charged, They were taken to court. We have a lot of virtual courts taking place. They were taken to court. They were granted bail. The matters were postponed. And those matters will be continuing. But they were charged.
Okay. Commissioner, do you intend to meet with the relatives of the 3 men who were killed in Mova to rebuild that healing process and to restore that level of cooperation with communities such as Beetham, Sealots, Mova, and Laventil with police officers? And second question, you said that the protests which took place for 2 days after the killings were influenced by politicians and gangs and a plot to destabilize the country. Where has that investigation reached?
I never said anything about politicians, Mr. Man. I don't know where but however, okay, going back to the first, I will go to the first question. Definitely. The best way for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to try to reduce crime is not by what is known as primary crime prevention. Primary crime prevention involves roadblocks, operations, targeting individuals, intelligence, searching, all of the what you see as hard targeting and law enforcement. That is primary crime prevention. The more we deal with secondary crime prevention, the less need for primary crime prevention. Tertiary has to do with the criminal justice system, where when we arrest all of these persons, we have persons who will scream, get them back out in the streets, give them bail and find them guilty, and they are fined $5,000 and they get another firearm the next day. The secondary crime prevention has to do with the social aspects, turning persons away from a life of crime. And that is what is important we intend to do. Through the Commissioner's Cup, through the system that we're going to have now known as Crossroads, where we're going to have 1,000 police officers work closely with 1,000 young men primarily and women, and we are working with the Ministry of Education, we are leading with the Insurance Court to try to find an avenue for these young persons to have a role model, to have a mentor, to be a big brother, to work with it. So yes, we intend to infiltrate communities, Darren, but we intend to infiltrate the community not by the fist, but by extending all 5 fingers and turn it into a handshake, and by working with the communities for them to understand we are not the enemy. But in the same manner, the communities must understand when people try to blame the police service for the ills of our society, we are not the ones that if it is that you're a parent and you allow your 14-year-old son to be out in the street for several hours with big hardback men that you don't know what they're doing, or you see that they have enough gold chains that their neck will strain every single day, or when it is they drop $10,000 cash on the table for you as a parent and you turn a blind eye, you do not care how they got it. The society needs to look at the society instead of blaming police officers for the ills of our society. Sometimes we need to look at ourselves. And the other question, Darren.
Where has the investigation reached plot to destabilize the country?
Oh, sure, right. Yes, there is an obvious concern. I was shocked when persons tried to question the fact that this was not something that was orchestrated. As the Chair of the National Security / Prime Minister stated, this was a criminal operation. There were 40 specific simultaneous hits that took place, one after the other. This was orchestrated. This was, in other words, what we saw in 1990, where they had widespread looting. This was 10 times better. It was strategic, it was planned. We have the intelligence and informants and others who would have informed us that the gang members, they met together, they tried to form an assembly to see what they could do to destabilize the country. Because of the use of the Commissioner's Command Center, the Operational Command Center, the use of drones, our intelligence units, the Emergency Response Patrol, GPS tracking, through the use of SWOT, ensuring that our units were specifically trained, qualified, and able, we were able to neutralize any situation that would have taken place to ensure that there would not be a repeat of 1990. And instead of the country telling the police officers, thank you for saving the country, you're still hearing the lady with the towel ball and the only too wicked. Any other questions? Okay, members of the media, Trinidad and Tobago, pleasant good afternoon.